Okay, we're live.
Thanks, Rick. I'm going to call to order tonight's meeting of the Finance Committee. It's Monday, October 19th, 2020. The time is 4:30. I'm Laura McNally, Fifth Ward City Councilperson and Chairwoman. I'm going to take today's roll call as usual for everybody. We have Rick Deek, Sharon Woodbury, Anita Davis, Basha Adamczak, Beverly Hosey, Chief Finley, Chuck Shasho, Demain Kitchen, Aaron Bishop, Harry Johnson, Julius Oliver, Kevin Flynn, Kyle Mizak, Mike Durkin, Mike Ray, Nikki Posterly, Samantha Turner, Tito Brown, Valencia Morrow, Jean Leeson, and Jeff Limbian. I think I caught everybody. If not, speak up. Okay. We'll move on to pending legislation under ordinances. We'll start here with number 2. Just renewing our janitorial services. Any questions from the committee here? Anita?
To the chair, our current contract already elapsed with the present company?
Through the chair.
Through the chair, yes. Oh, go ahead,
Kevin. Go ahead, Kevin.
Yes, that is correct. We started discussing this contract back in February, but unfortunately with the pandemic, we decided that it wasn't best to open it up for bids and have other contractors walking through city-owned properties during this time. So that's why you are seeing it now. Once it expired, it went to a month-to-month.
To the chair, one last question.
Anita, go ahead.
So what's the dollar amount on that present? What was the dollar amount of the last contract?
Ooh, I'm sorry, I do not have that in front of me right now.
I can get that from Cal. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. Item number 3. There are questions here. I think Aaron, I think this was something new you're doing, 3 and 4.
Yeah, Lauren, through the chair, I'm sorry. I wanted to also, 7 and 9 also go with that. That is the actual grant. So I didn't know if you wanted to take 3, 4, 7, and 9.
Yeah, that makes sense. So we're getting this grant, and then under 7, and then 8, we're allocating it. Or wait.
9.
You don't have, sorry, yeah. Number 9, we're allocating it. And then you're using it to provide these services through Catholic Charities and MyCap under 3 and 4.
Yes, through the chair, and I can explain this better
to
everyone. So we received a grant through the Ohio Department of Health's Office of Health Equity. They had received additional funding through the CARES Act, and this money was to assist local health departments with coronavirus activities that provide care resource coordination and support for low income, so families, people under the 200% federal poverty level. And so what we do, so often when we go do our contact tracing, we'll have families, we have to tell them they have to be in quarantine for 2 weeks or they have to be isolated. And so often they just are, start crying, and what are they going to do? They're going to have to miss work for 2 weeks, and I think some places are paying people, some aren't. And so they're very concerned. And this money would be to help them with back rent, to help pay their rent moving forward, to pay mortgages if they needed it, and to also pay for utilities. This grant will also be used for to get PPE. I know we're having some trouble right now. This just came up this afternoon. Some of our nursing homes are running low on their gowns, and I talked with EMA, and they are low at the EMA. My next call is out to ODH. So I think we're going to start seeing a little bit, of a need more with PPE. Also with masks. I was last week at our testing site. I had 2 individuals. She was near tears because she hadn't had a new mask in weeks. It was falling apart. It was one of those surgical masks. So we were able to give her some cotton masks that she can wash. And so she was very grateful. So we're still seeing a need for masks in our community. We get a lot of calls, local churches, organizations, and then we'll deliver them. Some of our mini marts, grocery stores, Rite Aid, whoever calls us, we're able to do that. And by that, generous donation from P&G. But unfortunately, we're down to a half a box left with that. So we're going to need to purchase some new masks. So the grant is for $225,000 total. So we're keeping about $85,000 at the health department to purchase the PPE, like I said, the masks, sanitizers, gowns, whatever we need to, help people. Also, we could do some cleaning supplies. A lot of the times when we're talking with families, they need some extra help with groceries or with, purchasing some Lysol wipes or just regular, Clorox, bleach, whatever they need. So we'd be able to supply that. When it comes to utilities and also like mortgage and rent, it's not an easy thing to do from the city health department. By the time the turnaround would come, by the time, we'd work with finance to get approval from the board, to get approval from you, whoever needs to approve spending, and then to cut the checks, it just would not be conducive to someone that needs the money soon. So we were hoping in working with MyCap and Catholic Charities, these are two agencies in the city of Youngstown that are currently doing this. I know MyCap does a lot with mortgage payments and rental assistance. And then I know Catholic Charities for years. I worked there 15 years ago and they were doing utility assistance. So we thought it would be a good place. These people, have done this for many years, already have contracts and doing that with other people. So what we would do is we would be a referral to their social workers at Catholic Charities and at MyCap, and then they would be able to cut the check to pay for any of our, patients that we've been working with that have been affected with COVID. And so that's kind of where we came up with and that was part of the guidance from the Ohio Department of Health to partner with community agencies that are already doing this, that we would just be kind of the go-between while we do our contact tracing and then be able to bring them to those agencies and then provide them with the funding.
Thanks, Erin. And I know that there's a lot of reporting that has to be done to go along with this grant. So we'll be able to see how effective this money was and make sure it was used,
Yes, and that is, so we'll do there'll be a sub-recipient would be Catholic Charities and MyCap. We have the paperwork that needs to go through. And then once they pay that, they need to send it back to us because this is all through Ohio Department of Health and their grants management information system. So we only get paid for reimbursement. So they're only going to give us the money if we do the activities we say we're going to do. So it's very strict with when you work with ODH and the funding. But the only drawback is this money ends by the end of this year. So it's only like 2.5 months. We were on a phone call this morning with Governor DeWine, and we really were encouraging him because there's about 4 or 5 grants that we have been working with since the beginning of COVID that are all ending on December 31st. And so we were pleading with him today, please try to see what you can do to extend these deadlines because it's a lot of money to spend in 2.5 months. Also with working with Catholic Charities, if he can't do that, Catholic Charities and MyCap have similar funding pots that they have that are extended for 2 years. So they could maybe use some of our money first and then, because our money is about to run out if we don't get it extended. So, but I'll keep you posted on all that. And then when we do our reporting, once it gets turned in at the end of the grant cycle, I can share that with you all, as well as when we get our contracts with Catholic Charities and MyCap. I know our law department is working with us to make sure that, everything's done correctly while we do this.
Okay. Thank you. Anita?
Yeah, hey, Erin, to the chair. Erin, how many masks are you expecting to purchase fairly shortly?
Yep. Through the chair, last time we had about, 26,000 masks. And that lasted us about 4 months. But again, those were all free. So I'm going to, once, you all agree to this, then I can go ahead and do the pricing and then be able to get, like I said, dispersing of the masks as quick as possible. Happy to pass them along to you as well so that you can get them out into your ward. We've been passing them out, anything that we've been at. And we've been trying to give cloth masks, and they're a little more expensive, but it is nice because people can turn around and, wash them. But they're, like I said, they're a little bit more expensive. So I'll do some pricing. Obviously, the cheapest ones we try to get cheaper, not the cheapest, but so that's what we're looking at.
And through the chair, in some of these senior citizens places, they can contact you directly, your office directly, and if they're running low and they need assistance in that area, correct?
Yes, through the chair. We have already been to International Towers, Gutnick Towers. So we do have a relationship with them, and we'll run them, bring them over to us. We have a couple places that we kind of park on the street or run down, drop them off to them. We'll do whatever they can. But yeah, a lot of people do know they could call us, churches, whatever. I think we have really, by us being out in the community doing our outreach, they know that they can call us anytime and we'll make sure they get what they need.
Thank you.
So that was 3 and 4. They're both working the same way. So we can probably move down to number 5. Any questions for Chuck on this piece, emergency repair piece?
For the chair.
Samantha?
Chuck, quick question. Do we have a work order list for Philadelphia Avenue?
Yes, I do have them. I will email them over to you tomorrow.
Thank you so much. And then I saw that there were a couple issues on the border control agenda that didn't quite meet the threshold. But have you looked at a plan as to what we can begin doing in order to stay even slightly ahead of all of these storm and sewer drains collapsing?
Yeah, well, one of the things we're going to be doing is in regards to the catch basins, we're going to begin to start incorporating some of that work in with some of our roadway jobs, especially when we get outside funding, so that we can kind of, all these, especially when they're older catch basins, like the older brick ones, and then we want to put the precast concrete catch basins in. So we're going to be trying to use federal highway money when we can to do that. So we'll be starting with that. Some of the other things, like, when we do plan it, projects takes a long time to plan, Councilwoman. To put a set of bid documents together, and it's really, really difficult to keep up with that when you have a system that's old as ours. We don't have the money, first of all, to repair all of our broken sewers. That's just the sad truth. We just don't have it. So we try to get the worst ones when we can. If we get in a situation where we feel it's not an emergency, we'll bid it out. Just like the one we're doing, the one over by Intertech Drive is one example. That's a storm sewer, but generally speaking, the sanitary sewers themselves, when we do the trouble spot areas, like I said, if we see an issue, we will put her on the list for replacement, but sometimes we can't wait that long.
Thank you. Direct follow-up. So I'm not saying planning a full project, but even just televising it, a schedule or scheduled maintenance, or mapping the city as to where to start and hitting them, because we're seeing them all as emergencies. And I just want to know, how do we get ahead of it? Because there's so many emergencies, one after another. That's all. You have.
This is basically, this is where we're at. This is the situation that we're in. And we have about 600 and some miles of road. I'm going to say that we have thousands of miles of sewer associated with those roads. There's no way to adequately survey every single mile of sewer that we have. It's just not going to happen, not with the resources we have. It wouldn't even be worth it, really, to be honest with you. It's a lot of work. Like I said, sometimes these sinkholes are under the ground, and it may not even necessarily show. It's kind of complicated, to be honest with you. It's a kind of a lengthy discussion we can have, maybe offline or something if you prefer.
Okay, Chuck, I have a couple other questions here. Anita?
Through the chair, Chuck, of the list that you have, or if you do, how far back are you? That you know of? I mean,
There is no list. I'm not sure what you mean. We
Well,
we try to routine. We have trouble spot areas. We have trouble spot areas that we do regularly. We don't have a routine where we are able to televise every foot of sewer in the city. We don't have that. We don't have the resources to do that. It's not going to happen.
Jay, so you don't have a list of complaints already? Like when you did over in the Handles area and you had to end up doing, I think it was about 6 at one time because it had been delayed for so long. So you don't have anything like that, any kind of backlog of complaints or?
Yes, that's different. That's not what, I don't think that's what Councilwoman Turner was talking about. She was asking about trying to survey and inspect the sewers to try to head off these types of things. We track every single work order and complaint that we get through wastewater, every one of them.
Okay, well, that's what I'm talking about, not what Samantha's talking about.
okay.
That, so, yeah, so you do have that. Do you have it at hand and an approximate number? And if you don't, just get it to me later on.
I don't have a number.
Okay.
I have.
That'll work. Just get it to me later on.
There's a lot.
Okay.
Mike?
I was just going to say, happy to schedule the Public Utilities Committee meeting if anyone wants to get a greater understanding of this process, and would give, someone like Gene, ability to talk to us, and Chuck and Harry as well, to get those processes better understood.
Thanks, Mike. I think that is probably a good idea because we seem to get hung up on these every meeting. Okay, I'm going to move on to number 6. Then at this point, questions here. Okay. Number 7, we already talked about. Number 8 says we've already sort of passed this with our CDA budget, and we're just moving the money into the appropriate places. Any questions here? Anita?
Through the chair, those dollar amounts that were in the various categories, and I think this might be for Cal, I'm not sure for whom, were those dollars that we thought we were going to use and that we just ended up not using? Because like one was for professional services, and I think another was for benefits, maybe fringes. So did we not hire?
Kyle?
Through the chair, every year when you pass the CDB budget, there are estimates made on what our insurance costs will be based on the fact that the CDA budget is on a fiscal year. So yes, there are sometimes monies that are set aside in the budget that are not used. So that does occur where they then get reallocated. But this particular request is now that we have identified what our debt schedule will be because of the fact that we now have put the new amphitheater under CDBG's, budget for debt service. They are now asking you to allocate that directly so that payment can be made back to HUD for the second installment under the agreed terms for the amphitheater park.
Anita?
And through the chair, that was for last year, those dollar amounts, that's from year 2019?
Right now they are talking about the CDA 44th year. You have to remember, which it would have been, we just passed the 46th budget. So they move through where they have to utilize all of the prior year funds first. And because we didn't have a debt service back in the 44th year, when it was passed, we hadn't had the park in place yet. So they are using the 44th year's budget to make that payment to this year. They're using the 44th amount of money that you appropriated. So in essence, instead of using the 46th, we're using the 44th. Next year, we'll use the 45th, and going forward. It's because of the timing of when those funds were made available and when they were actually going to be used. We didn't use anything towards debt service back in calendar 2018. We are now using the 44th year to make the payment in 2020.
Okay, thank you. I want to know what calendar year it was. Thank you.
Okay. Move on here then. Number 9, we already talked about. Number 10, questions?
Yes, through the chair.
Samantha?
I just wanted to know, it referred to an accident. Can you tell us what happened on the with this accident?
Sure, through the chair. One of our operators was driving up, I think it was Erie Street, and the bottom line, he was careless and hit a tree. That's what happened.
And my thank you. Direct follow-up. How old is this backhoe?
This backhoe was relatively new. I think it's 2 years old. It was one of our newer backhoes that was damaged. The employee was appropriately disciplined for the action. So.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Do we carry insurance on these?
Yeah, what this legislation is for, we have to, in order to get the backhoe, we have to produce a purchase order, pay for the backhoe, and then the insurance company will reimburse us. Our deductible is $10,000. So 19 of that will be coming back to us from the insurance company. But we got to get this backhoe in production, especially given the fact that our busy season is around the corner.
Okay. Okay. Moving on to number 11. Thanks, Harry. Any questions for number 11, on number 11 here? I know we've talked about it before. This is the first time we've seen this particular project. Okay, looks good. 12, 13, and 14 are discretionary. 15, number 15 and 16 are both something I believe we pass every year. So any questions here? Shouldn't be. Okay. And we have 2 late signed out of committee, and they've been discussed a few times at this point. So is there any final questions on ordinance 20-183 first and 20-208 next? Anything there? Okay, that's our whole agenda. Do I have anything under miscellaneous?
Through the chair, may I address the council about money that received today from OWDA?
Okay.
I'd just like to bring all of you up to speed. Over the last 18 months, we have been making payments to 3 different vendors as a result of us waiting to be awarded the last 2 approved projects under the wastewater site where we were making those improvements. I know council was concerned that we were going to, in essence, have to prepay some of these vendors for that work. Those loans were both approved, and today, out of the nearly 9 million that we have spent up front, today we received 6.4 million back from OWDA that we will apply back to the wastewater fund. We will be making minor payments to 2 of those vendors, and those monies that are still outstanding, along with the payments that we're about to make, we will have all that reimbursed before the end of the calendar year. OWDA has informed us of that. I just wanted to give you an update that those monies have been returned to the city, and we deposited those funds back into the checking account today.
Great, thank you for the update, Kyle. I appreciate that. All right, I will take a motion then. Basha?
Thank you. Through the chair, I would like to make a motion to forward ordinances 2 through 16 and ordinances 20-183 and ordinance 20-208 to the council floor for consideration.
Second.
Okay. I will take a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
Thank you, everyone.